The sound of rain hitting the skyscraper windows was the only thing filling the silence in the conference room when Daniel Hayes dropped the prototype onto the table with a frustrated sigh. "We've spent 2 years and nearly $50 million on this AI chip," he snapped, glaring at his team of engineers, "and it still crashes at runtime. If any of you can fix it, I'll give you $500 million. The words echoed like thunder in the tense room. But among the suits and polished shoes, a quiet voice spoke up from the corner. "I think I can fix it," said Ethan Cole, a janitor wearing a faded blue uniform and holding a mop. Everyone turned toward him, disbelief written on their faces. Ethan wasn't supposed to be there. He was cleaning the executive floor, trying to finish his shift before heading home to his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, who was waiting for him with homework and instant noodles. Life hadn't been kind to him since his wife's passing 3 years ago. He had once been a computer engineer before layoffs and medical bills stripped him of everything. Now he was a janitor, humble, quiet, invisible. But when he overheard the CEO frustration, something in him stirred. He couldn't ignore the code displayed on the massive screen. He'd seen something similar years ago when working on neural network simulations. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "You fix it," he said mockingly. "You're a janitor, not an engineer." Ethan swallowed his pride but didn't back down. "Doesn't matter what I am. Just give me a chance. If I fail, I'll walk away quietly." The engineers laughed under their breath, whispering among themselves. But Daniel, half amused and half curious, waved a hand. "Fine, knock yourself out." Ethan approached the workstation, his hands trembling. He hadn't touched a high-level system in years. The code stared back at him, lines upon lines of deep learning architecture, logic chains, and algorithmic inconsistencies. It was messy but familiar. He adjusted his glasses, took a deep breath, and began typing. Minutes turned into an hour. The room, once filled with mockery, grew silent as the janitor's fingers danced confidently over the keyboard. He spotted a recursive loop buried deep in the neural mapping sequence, something no one else had noticed. It was a simple but fatal error. He restructured the code, streamlined the input handler, and modified the feedback matrix. Then, with one final keystroke, he hit run. The machine that had refused to function for 2 years suddenly hummed to life. The screen lit up green, AI response, stable, the system didn't crash. It ran smoothly, perfectly. The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel stood frozen, his eyes wide. "That's impossible," he whispered. How did you?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Sometimes it's not about resources or titles. It's about seeing what others overlook." The CEO face shifted from shock to admiration. The same engineers who had mocked him moments ago were now staring in awe. Daniel cleared his throat. "You just saved us from bankruptcy," he admitted, extending a hand. "What did you say your name was?" Ethan Cole." "Well, Ethan," Daniel said slowly, "I believe I owe you $500 million. Days turned into weeks. Isabella kept finding excuses to see him, offering to sponsor Lily's schooling, bringing him food, even sitting in his cab while he drove late, night fares. Slowly, her world of privilege began to mix with his world of struggle. Lily adored her. "She's like a fairy, Daddy," she giggled once as Isabella helped her bake cookies in their tiny kitchen. Ethan smiled, though deep inside he worried. He didn't belong in her world. Then came the night everything changed again. One evening, Ethan received a strange call. Isabella's driver had quit, and she needed a ride to an important charity gala. Reluctantly, he agreed. When she stepped into the car wearing a silver gown, Ethan forgot to breathe. "You clean up nice," she teased. "You look different," he murmured, unable to find the right words. At the gala, Reporters swarmed her, and Ethan watched from the sidelines, invisible as always. But suddenly, chaos erupted. Someone had spiked her drink. Isabella collapsed. Ethan rushed to her, ignoring security shouting at him. He carried her out in his arms and drove straight to the hospital, his heart hammering with fear. When she woke up, her first words were, "You again." Ethan laughed shakily. "I'm starting to think you attract trouble just to keep me around." Her hand brushed his. "Maybe I do." Their bond deepened after that night, but the world wasn't kind to them. Isabella's family disapproved. Her father, Charles Sterling, was furious. "You are not throwing your future away for a cab driver," he thundered. Isabella stood tall. "He's the man who saved my life twice. The only one who looks at me like I'm not a headline." Ethan tried to walk away to protect her reputation. "You deserve someone who can give you everything," he said quietly. "All I have is a small apartment and a daughter who sleeps in my arms when the power goes out." But Isabella shook her head, tears glistening in her eyes. "You already gave me everything that matters: kindness, honesty, and love." Still, life tested them. Charles used his power to blacklist Ethan from driving in the city, and social media tore him apart, calling him an opportunist, a gold digger. Bills piled up again, and he almost lost his home, but Isabella didn't back down. She sold her luxury penthouse and moved into his modest apartment, proving her love was real. They rebuilt their lives together, starting a small transport company, Lily's Rides, named after his daughter. Isabella used her business skills. Ethan managed the drivers. Within a year, they were providing affordable rides to single parents across the city. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, Isabella stood beside Ethan on their office rooftop. Lily ran around them, laughing, her hair glowing in the golden light. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked softly. She smiled. "Regret? Ethan, you kissed me once to save my life. That moment didn't just bring me back. It gave me a reason to live differently." Ethan wrapped his arm around her, his heart full. "And you showed me that love doesn't care about class, money, or past. It just defines you." As they looked out over the city, the same city that once separated them, they knew they had won, not because life was easy, but because they had chosen each other through every storm.